Hello, welcome to Back to Coding. For better understanding of this video, I highly recommend you to check out the previous video or the complete playlist in the description below. Today I'll be talking about the backward compatibility, versions and API levels in Android support library. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so that whenever I publish a video, you get notified instantly about it. Support libraries allow apps running on older versions of the Android platform to support features made available on newer versions of the platform. For example, an app running on a version of Android lower than 5, API level 21, that relies on framework classes cannot display material design elements, as that version of the Android framework doesn't support material design. However, if the app incorporates the V7 app compat library, the app has access to many of the features available in the API level 21, including support for material design. As a result, your app can deliver a more consistent experience across a broader range of platform versions. The support library APIs also provide a compatibility layer between different versions of the framework APIs. This compatibility layer transparently intercepts API calls and changes either the arguments passed, handles the operation itself, or redirects the operation. In the case of the support libraries, by using the compatibility layers methods, you can ensure interoperability between older and newer Android releases. Each new release of Android adds new classes and methods and possibly deprecates some older classes and methods. The support libraries include compatibility classes that can be used for backward compatibility. You can identify these classes by their name, as their names include compat, such as ActivityCompat. When an app calls one of the support classes methods, the behavior of that method depends on the underlying Android version. If the device includes the necessary framework functionality, the support library uses the framework. If the device is running an older version of Android, the support library makes an attempt to implement similar compatible behavior with the APIs it has available. For most cases, you do not need to write complex code that checks the version of Android and performs different operations based on that version. You can rely on the support library to do those checks and choose appropriate behavior. When in doubt, choose the support library compatibility class over the framework class. Each package in the support library has a version number in 3 parts, x.y.z, that corresponds to an Android API level and to a particular revision of that library. For example, a support library version number of 22.3.4 is version 3.4 of the support library for API 22. As a general rule, use the most recent version of the support library for the API your app is compiled and targeted for, or a newer version. For example, if your app targets API 25, use the version 25.x.x of the support library. You can always use a newer support library than the one for your targeted API. For example, if your app targets API 22, you can use version 25 or higher of the support library. The reverse is not true. You cannot use an older support library with a newer API. As a general rule, you should try to use the most up-to-date API and support libraries in your app. In addition to the actual version number, the name of the support library itself indicates the API level that the library is backward compatible with. You cannot use a support library in your app for an API higher than the minimum API your app supports. For example, if the minimum API your app supports is 10, you cannot use the V13 support library or V14 preferences support library in your app. If your app uses multiple support libraries, your minimum API must be higher than the largest number. That is, if you include support libraries for V7, V13 and V14, your minimum API must be at least 14. All of the support libraries, including the V4 and V7 libraries, require a minimum SDK of API 9. Don't forget to check my other videos which can be helpful to you.